Welcome to PaleyFest Fall TV Previews. I'm Steven Weintraub, Editor-in-Chief of Collider, and I'm delighted to be your host for this special conversation celebrating Paramount Plus's acclaimed returning series, Tulsa King. Today, I'm pleased to welcome members of the series cast and creative team. Joining us are executive producer Terence Winter, Garrett Hedlund, who stars as Mitch Keller, Jay Will, who stars as Tyson, and Martin Starr, who stars as Bodie. Let's start our program. First of all, thank you all so much for joining us today. And I'm going to start with a softball down the middle. What do you guys want to tease everyone about season 2?
Season 2, if there's a way to top season 1, I think we did it. I wasn't sure coming back where we'd be, but starting with Dwight's arrest at the end of the last episode, we kind of take off from there, and the action just gets bigger and bigger as the season goes. So without being very specific, I will leave you at that.
I echo what Terry said. I mean, I think sort of season one's our season 1 really did a phenomenal job of introducing so many compelling characters. It gave a chance for the fans to really get involved, and I think this season lends itself to the opportunity of really letting the shit hit the fan for all parties involved. So I think the audiences are in for a big treat.
We all get covered in shit, is what he's saying.
Well, you are in Oklahoma, so
at the ceiling.
Right.
Well, one of the things that I'm actually really excited about season 2 is you bring in, and Terence, this is for you bring in 2 formidable antagonists with Frank Grillo and Neal McDonough. Talk a little bit about their addition to the cast and what does that mean for the gang?
Sure. I mean, both of those actors are people I know. I don't just speak for myself when I say we were tremendously excited to add both of those guys to the cast. Neal plays a business rival of Dwight's that gets a rivalry that starts to get heated as the season progresses, and Frank Grillo plays a rival mob boss. They're both 2 really formidable antagonists, and obviously Dwight, doesn't have great conflict resolution skills. So certainly when as Garrett said, when the shit hit the fan, Dwight certainly he's holding the fan right back up. So it's just really exciting to have these guys on. Both of them are phenomenal actors. Again, people I've been wanting to work with for a really long time, and it just sort of rounds out the world and makes things extremely more complicated for Dwight and his crew.
For the cast, one of the things that Neal's really good at is this is going to sound stupid, is not blinking. He can be very formidable when you're standing next to him. So talk a little bit about what for all 3 of you getting to work with Frank and getting to work with Neal.
Man, Frank came with the guns. He ain't had one bullet in his head. He just is the focus of it all. He came in with the charisma, with the attitude, and I was like, yo, this guy can go. All right, cool. Let me step my game up, man. It was overall just inspiring, man. Everybody just brought it, man. Pressure up to the umpteenth power for sure this season.
It's funny, I never realized that about Neal. And it's funny, the first thing you said about Neal and his presence, of course, I thought about those eyes, but I didn't realize he's not blinking. And that's exactly right. I mean, he's got that intense stare and those blue eyes. It's like, oh shit, yeah, the guy doesn't blink. No wonder he's so intimidating. Everybody else is blinking like crazy. He's like just staring at you. Now I get it. Now we know the secret.
I was watching in episode 1 when he's going against Sly. He is just staring at him, and just anyway. So for all of you guys, without spoiling anything, is there like a favorite moment in season 2 that you can't wait for fans to see?
I have one, and again, without spoiling anything, it involves character development. As Garrett said, season 1 really set the table for introducing us to these various characters. In season 2, you get to see that growth. People change as the circumstances change, and part of the fun of writing these characters for these phenomenal actors is that they get to really fill out who they are. And there's a moment midway through the season where one of our characters was really put to a test, both physically and psychologically, that I was really, really excited to explore. Again, can't give any spoilers, but I'm really excited for audiences to see how this develops.
And all the love stories, we know what people tune in for. So it's packed full of romance. I mean, we've got it all.
Yeah, and I think these guys, what's going to be absolutely entertaining are the hoops these guys have to jump through to broaden their reach and to expand on their empire. The mischief and the intriguing danger, corruption we get up to just extends, and there are no bounds, and so that leaves it quite entertaining within this. And also, I mean, look, I'm excited for so many scenes I got to be a part of, but every episode when I was reading the scripts, I'm so excited for all these scenes I wasn't a part of. The addition of Grillo and Neal was phenomenal. They both came in and added so tremendously to this wonderful, colorful group of misfits that I just can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, man, that's real, man. The cool part about this season that it's really different for me. I'll say, in my own character's development is how we get through the dilemmas, how we get to how we get to do the thing. We see the conflict, the climax of the story, but how we get there, the build of getting there was the most funnest part of it, justifying those curves and just making it make sense. Also, too, the relationships, the relationships of each character and how you see the dynamics of the whole family just start to become more solid with it all. I mean, it's fun, surprising. It's a lot of twists and turns, but shit's gonna hit the fan for sure.
This is for the actors. When in the 2 seasons, which scene or sequence ended up being like a real pain in the ass to film for whatever reason, whether it be dialogue, camera moves, location? What can you share?
I mean, the heat in Oklahoma City was
Oh, I knew it was
real.
coming.
But it got pretty intense in Atlanta as well, the second season. So they both have formidable summers, which hopefully we'll avoid in any future seasons, knock on wood. But those are that's what I remember the most, is how horrible the heat was. You love a good day where you're just on stage.
I'd say I love him just as much as the next guy, but the fight sequences, given the elements that were in the heat and all of that as well, but also, bless Terry's heart, but he writes very big ensemble casts, and so when we have a fight sequence, there's a lot of feet on the ground. These there's a lot of moving parts, and they're a blast. They look amazing to watch. We brought the stakes up even more. Terry brought the stakes up even more on this season, but in these elements, they get a little tricky.
Yeah, and shooting those sequences with the aliens at the very end of season 2. Uh-oh. Wait a minute.
They said no spoilers. God.
I did it.
Yeah, it's funny. I have to say, for you guys, just look, as a fan watching, it's got to be pretty cool being in a brawl, and one of the guys you're fighting alongside of is Sylvester Stallone. So
Yeah.
that's got to be fun. I mean, that's like epic. You've seen him do this a million times, and now you look next to you, oh shit, that's him with a baseball bat or whatever he's holding. So that's got to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I feel bad for the makeup people and the people that were in makeup. Us doing those fighting scenes back to back, and I'm drenched in sweat. I got to change my costume. They got to keep.
It's a lot of logistics, and the fact that you get out of it without anybody actually getting hurt is kind of honestly, heat stroke is
emotional
the emotional
damage.
Yeah, and emotional damage. But no, it's true. The heat was terrible. I mean, at one point in my trailer, I could only get the AC up to like 72. It was really awful. I get it.
Every day, I feel
horrible.
heard. I feel seen.
So when this show premiered on Paramount Plus, it was an immediate hit, and it got renewed very quickly. For each of you, when did you realize, oh wait, people are really enjoying this show, and like people are really responding?
All my friends told me their dad loves this show, so that's when I was like, "This is it. We made it."
Yeah, man. When it got back to my churches I grew up in, when they got back to my neighborhood back at home, I'm like, yo, they're like, yo, we love it. I'm like, yo, you watch this? They say, yeah. So, you know, it's hitting those nooks and crannies that you wouldn't really think that there would be an audience there. And it's a cool thing. It's exciting to see it reach so many different perspectives for sure.
I'm not sure if you got if Terrence or Garrett, if you want to add, or I can move on.
Yeah, I mean, I just, started hearing from people I hadn't heard from in a really long time, who just absolutely love the show. I mean, I think, it was such a, the premise, that Taylor came up with, was such a fun fish out of water story. And then to take a guy like Sly and put him in the middle of Tulsa, is just, it's out of the gate. I think people are just intrigued, not only with him, but with that premise, surrounding him with these, bunch of characters that you never in a million years imagine him to be around, just struck a chord with people. And really, as Jay just said, just across the board. I mean, I've heard from, across age demographics, that love the show. Which has not been the case with a lot of other things I worked on. It usually, sometimes skews it in a certain way, but this has been, young to old, people that just, and all over the world. I've heard from friends, everywhere from, Vienna to, to Italy, to, this, apparently the show is anywhere where they have a television set. Apparently this show is on. So I've been hearing from people that, love the show, even dubbed in different languages. So.
Absolutely. For me, I'll echo on both of them. I mean, yes, like Martin, I had a lot of friends saying it's the only show my dad's ever made me wait to watch with him. Like Terrence, people from all over the globe reaching out. And then also kicking back to what Terry was saying about Sly. I mean, I have a lot of people that say, man, you're working with Sly, you're working with, Rocky. I've died and gone to heaven now. Or you're working with Terry. That's, I mean, Boardwalk, Sopranos, my God, and you're working with Sheridan, like dream come true. So it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, when I heard that it was Terry and Sly working together, I was like, oh, I'll be watching. Like it's really that simple, But I want to bring up Sly. Like the whole world, I am a huge fan of Sylvester Stallone. What do you guys think might surprise fans of his to learn about what he's really like to work with? Or can you share any fun stories from set about working with him?
The guy works hard, man. I mean, the guy really knows what he wants. He comes in already prepared with, they might have an idea of what they want, but he comes in boop boop, way more simpler. He knows how to get there, and I think it just reflects in the work. The scenes that I had with him individually, really, I guess, chisel me as an actor. He was one that told me to keep my eyes open, stare into their souls. He gives me these really abstract, notes, knowing that I'll understand it, and look, they're gonna be surprised that he really got the chops with it, the layers of the mucho, like the macho, like, mob guy, with also like the loving father, that has feelings, and also to the mentorship that I have with him. It's so many waves and layers to it. To see those colors, man, I think it will be a whole new perspective for people.
He's really, I think a lot of people don't realize how funny he is, also, and also self-deprecating. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He's got a great sense of humor. As Jay was saying, also, he's a an actor, a writer, a producer, an editor. He's done it all. So he really comes in and he really works hard. I mean, I've had conversations with him where he's on a plane texting me, script notes back and forth, and then landing and going to work. As soon as he's done, we're back texting again. I mean, he's always thinking about the show, which is pretty incredible for anybody, let alone a guy who's wearing so many different hats.
So one of the things is Taylor Sheridan created the show, and I'm not sure if you guys can answer this, but like whatever he touches just turns to gold. What is it about him that he has this magic touch?
Well, he signed a deal with the devil many years ago, right? That enabled him to have this superpower where he can just create shows. I honestly don't know. I don't know how he does it, but you're absolutely right. Everything the guy seems to do, he's got his finger on the pulse of what the audience wants to see. And what he does better than anybody. He just, creates these worlds and these characters and these conflicts that just resonate in a way, and it just always seems to click. So yeah, whatever he's eating or drinking, I need to get some of it.
Look, I think he's just got a keen ability to, he's got a knack for making the audiences root for the outlaws at heart, and I think that's what audiences really relate to within this. There's a danger and an exhilaration rooting for these guys like Dwight Manfredi in this, and the whole crew, the whole posse, even the ones that are the villains per episode. You root for all of them, and it's that accessibility within all the characters that really radiate for all the shows. Yellowstone, Mayor of Kingstown, Lioness, everything. That's the zest I love.
He picks really interesting people to collaborate with too. I mean, it's fun to see how his shows kind of come together. And I also love working with Sly. It's really an incredible experience to get to see someone who you watched growing up in person, still with this vigor for what he does. It's fun to show up to work with people who love what they do and do it at the highest level.
Absolutely. Look, I was super excited as well. I've known Sly since before I ever shot my first scene of my first film. We were training with the same trainer, Gutter Peterson, back in LA. And for whatever reason, he was always so sweet and supportive back then. Throughout the years, I'd run into him. He always asked me what I was up to. But the funny thing is, he always knew what I was up to before I had to tell him. But ask me how this production went, or when am I going to start this or finish this. And I thought that was such an unbelievably aware quality that he has. He's in tune with everything, with what's going on out there, which makes him so fucking funny within this character. Because he really gets to bring a lot of himself into this. I think that awareness he brings greatly to the set and to what he does. He, like Terry said, he's the man of many hats on this. I mean, he's so involved with the writing or improvisation or the directing or the cinematography and just the story, and not only his story, but everybody's story. So passionately and devotedly, to where it's just something, it's so unbelievable to experience. It's infectious, being able to work with somebody that's been in it for so long and still cares so damn much. It's a creative compulsion, necessity within him to create, and for him to never shed of that or let any part of that process get old or boring to him. That's what I want to, that's where I want to be.
I'm ready to retire.
Terry, I actually have a question for you. One of the things that Sly told me when I spoke to him for season 1 was that if there were a season 2, he would want to be more involved in the writing. And I noticed on the season premiere of season 2, he's listed as a co-writer. And I noticed that he co-wrote the season 2 finale with you. So can you talk a little bit about collaborating with Sly as a writer? And also, how did you guys figure out, possibly together, where the season was ultimately going to go and end?
Well, we talk a lot. We talk at the very beginning of the year, what the broad strokes are of the journey. And then, I always liken it to, a road trip. We're going to go from LA to New York and make stops along the way in Vegas, Chicago, Detroit, those being various story points along the way. And then it's, filling in the blanks. Okay, what happens now? What if that? Just pitching each other back and forth. And of course, my writing staff is heavily involved in that as well. Sly understands his character so well, and everybody else. So he'll take what we have and then embellish it or go deeper with the emotional stuff, or, really want to push things to, a higher, more conflicted place. And it's really just a series of conversations as the season goes on. And then even after we have our drafts written, he'll send me, handwritten notes, additions to scenes, dialogue things. And, part of the challenge is trying to decipher his scrawl. And we have somebody on staff who's really good at it, because I've like it's like hieroglyphics. And as I have no idea what he's writing, then we have the person who can actually kind of make sense of it. And then, again, it's just back and forth until it actually works. And, it's also, he's very aware of himself as a performer. Sometimes I'll write speeches for him and I'll go, this is great, but I need to make it more what I'm comfortable with. And obviously for a guy who's been doing this for 50 years, he gets that. And, so we'll just continue to tweak up until the last minute, but he's contributed tremendously. And, his name is on a couple of scripts. There were probably a few others where I've even suggested, hey, we should share writing credit. And he's like, nah, yeah, don't worry about it. But he's contributed tremendously to the writing of the show.
If you don't mind me asking, after the first season, now the show is a hit show. So when you guys were working on season 2, how much were you thinking about, well, we might have another season here. So are we, how much are you thinking about what could be a third season when you're writing season 2? And how much is it like, let's just worry season by season?
I'd say it's 90-10 in my head, at least. How do we get through this season in a way that's most satisfying and creatively surprising? And then 10% of that is, okay, well, let's make sure enough people are still alive to do a season 3. And then where do we go? You can't sort of but Martin already ruined it with the arrival of the alien spaceship. But
sorry, guys.
So it's now Mars King in season 3. Yeah, I mean, it's a little that, all right, where are we heading? And and some of it is setting that up subtly, where you'll come back in season 3 and go, oh, okay, this is what was going on. I didn't realize it until you kind of rewind the tape. So, but that's just sort of the challenge of series television. You don't generally have the luxury of knowing if you're going to continue, so you try to leave a door open and hope for the best. And sometimes you do know you have a series finale to write to, which is at least a little better for the audience, I guess. But for the most part, you just assume you're going to forge ahead, and I certainly hope that's the case here.
Garrett, this question for you. Mitch is a classic cowboy. What do you think draws Dwight, a gangster from New York, to him, and vice versa?
It was established in season 1 that Mitch also spent some time behind the bars, spent some time in prison, and so there was an immediate kinship with them from that moment. That a little bit of relatability, especially for Dwight in a town where he was so lost. Later on in the season 1, when they became partners, this was really sort of a handshake that was going to lead to much greener pastures, especially for Mitch. Bread to buck expanding and becoming sort of what it is, and you've seen, so it's become a fully flourished casino, a place for them to hunker at, do their deals at, watch their money at, so on and so forth. And as I said, they get to now start furthering their reach and expanding their horizons together. All of us, Martin's character with everything he's got going on wonderfully with the weed shop, and Jay's as well. So the audience gets to be along for the ride, to watch all of us go in these wonderfully different directions, all sort of spawned from the man, be it Dwight.
I feel like cowboys and mafia have a similar moral code too. I mean, there's a shared foundation there, I think, as well.
Thanks for reminding me of that, Martin. I was losing my focus with the neighbor's gardener going on in the background.
Yeah, you're a busy guy.
The mobster, a cowboy, both built of brass, constitutions of ox, they ride in the same circle.
2 peas in a pod.
Exactly. Martin, this is a question for you. Bodie and Dwight are the series' oddest odd couple. It seems like they've developed a camaraderie and respect, but what is Bodie see in Dwight? And do you think it's all business related?
I mean, what Terry and I talked about from the beginning before season 1 was this paternal relationship developing. I don't know that it's kind of like become something unique and different. But I think the intention initially was that this was a guy who needed a little like strong male um, father figure in his life, and so that's kind of what Dwight forces upon him from the very beginning. Um, but yeah, it's very fun and weird to see two guys who have similar aspirations in life, but very different ways of going about it, showing up for each other to try to get to find the success that they both want. But he does that with everybody. I mean, there's so many really unique, beautiful relationships that develop, and somebody said it earlier, but I concur. There's a lot of like new. I got to work with people this season um, that were not that didn't totally make sense to me initially, but new relationships have developed. I don't want to ruin anything. That's why I'm like tiptoeing around this, but I don't know what I'm allowed to say. Also, I don't get the full scripts. I read off a teleprompter. I just say the words as they're written and then walk away.
Actually, a part two for you. You, as already demonstrated in this conversation, you can be pretty funny and you can improv on the spot. So, how much do you actually get to improv on set, and how much are you sort of like, it? Terry's a really good writer. I'm gonna, you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I mean the dialogue is always there. The Sly likes to find new beats, so we like to play a little bit, and that was something that I talked to Terry about before we started. Just that's a comfort zone of mine to play and find things that maybe don't exist there. But the the vast majority of it is just really good writing. So I play because it makes the written word sometimes come off better, because that's how comedy works. So you say the same joke twice, it is less funny substantially the second time. So getting to like play and do other things and come back to the initial dialogue is always valuable as well.
Well, you're selling yourself a little short. For me as a writer, you can, obviously you hope it's on the page, and it is a lot of times. But when you have somebody that's as good at improv as Martin is, you welcome that as much as you can get. Sometimes that's where the gold is. You don't know where these guys are going, and you get Sly likes to play around too. And sometimes it goes to a place you never would have imagined, and that's the line that stays in the final cut that you didn't even think of to begin with. So to limit that and just adhere only to the script, sometimes you're really you're lessening a lot of great opportunities for yourself. And again, obviously helps to have somebody who has the comedic chops that can just go anywhere. And Martin and a lot of the cast, all these guys certainly have it and do it all the time. If you're in a scene with Sly, you have to be on your toes because he might throw you a curveball and you might have to just start thinking on your feet. And again, that's sometimes where the best stuff is.
Sly has told me about how he likes to make dialogue into his own all the time, and
Yeah.
I'm sure that throws curveballs on set all the time. But Jay, I have some questions for you. Do you think Tyson actually wants to be a gangster? And part two, how has Tyson's relationship with Dwight changed from season one into season two?
It's crazy. I don't really know if Tyson knows what a gangster is quite like yet. I think it's just like he's living a lifestyle that so happens to be gangster. He doesn't know that this is the qualifications that makes one a gangster. But I think once he gets into the relationship deeper with the family, I think he's starting to get hints of a lifestyle change that might be something that's different than the light that his own family raised him to be receptive to. I guess it just pulls back and forth between the light and the dark energies that he's walking into the relationship, starting with the money. When the beginning of when they went to the dispensary, and he slapped bread in his hand, he's like, here you go, and he's like, that was his first, step towards this different direction of like, I guess, I don't know, instant gratification in a way, but I think he's ready for it for sure. I think every situation that Tyson has been in has been prepped out by the people higher than him to know if he was able to. It's like it's just steps to it. It's like initiation steps, I feel like. And there's a lot of those in this next season for sure.
Season 2 is 10 episodes. This is for everyone. Do you have any favorites of those 10 episodes? Like ones you can't wait for fans to see?
Oh man, it's hard to say it without spoiling, man. It's like it's just major climactic shifts, tests of self, testing relationships with family and loved ones, how does somebody go a different route? What turns the Joker into the Joker in a way? A lot of those questions come up for me. But again, it's just like the fighting scenes. The fighting scenes for sure just exemplify this gritty side of the whole show. But collectively, all of it together, man, it just panned out the right way.
The finale is really strong. I think it's tough with a show like this to because the writing was happening simultaneously and so like a lot of the stuff. I mean, it happens with every show anyway, but it was fun to watch how it all unfolded to the climax that we have in the finale, and that was really fun to be a part of. But I also think it pays off really well for this season. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff throughout the whole season. Jay and I have a really fun scene like midway through, and so do Garrett and I. Like there's some new interesting arcs that I got to play with, so that was really fun too, and not just have it all be comedy for me. But I do like those comedy beats. I feel like we veered a little bit. Like I do a little bit less of the cowering to Dwight, but those were some of my favorite things to play with in season 1. Just when he'd like stomp his foot and just try and scare the shit out of me was fun to play.
There's a big emotional shift for several characters midway through that I'm really excited. I was really excited to explore as a writer and really excited for the audience to witness. So that's, I'd say, somewhere around episode 6 and 7.
I'm excited just as Martin was saying, just to go on the journey with the audience and make it to the finale. We had a lot of fun shooting everything that built up to it. I'm excited to see, these other guys' wonderful storylines heading the direction they're heading. I'm always looking forward to seeing everybody's wonderful performances. And yeah, I'm just really proud.
This might be my last question. We're almost out of time. One of the things about making a TV show is the first season, you're learning a lot about how to make the show and working with other actors and Terry writing for characters. For each of you, what did you learn making the first season that you wanted to bring into season 2? Like, lessons learned.
For me, as the characters themselves developed into fully formed people by the end of the first season, you realize there's a lot more depth emotionally and psychologically to these fictional people that you kind of open. That's one of the great things about doing a series is you've got so much real estate to explore backstories and what makes people tick and how they relate to one another. The other fun thing is, you don't know often. Sometimes you put two actors together in a scene that you didn't initially think of, and you go, oh my God, these people are great together. What an eyeball combo. Obviously, Sly and Jay together, that was the way it was written. But, as Martin said, you put Martin and Tyson together and you go, oh, wow, there's magic there. Or, Garrett's got, a few scenes with other cast members that he normally wouldn't have interacted with. And you go, wow, that's pretty cool. So that's kind of fun to kind of discover that alchemy as you go on is part of the fun of doing the show for me.
On the acting side, for me, I remember I came in season 1, I was kind of nervous to like make to improv or to like make it a little bit my own. More, I was wanting to, I was trained up to always have major integrity for the writer in the process, because I guess that's where the character really is. And even the minute articles like as or but or the small words, even those honoring that. But to give myself a little bit of room this time to make it my own, to make it closer to naturalism as I could, but to also honor the script at the same time. I'm excited about the future of it all, of that merge between, I guess, improv and, sticking to the script, But this time I allow my wings to, fly a little bit more on the improv side. So I'm excited to see how that's received.
My hat goes off to Terence and Sly and everybody involved when they get in the editing room and have to sort of, have to start killing their darlings on this, because there's such a glorious amount of wonderfully hilarious moments, wonderfully gripping moments, wonderfully emotional, like, just heart crushing sort of moments at such times. And so the obstacle for them to sit down and sort of figure out how to condense each episode into, the given amount of minutes, and how to kill their darlings in this process. My heart goes out. We have some truly wonderful days, shooting, and some just wonderful scenes that go into this. And so, Terry really does a wonderful job at honing this in and making it what it's become. And yeah, I just want to say thank you, Terry. It's
my privilege. Thank you, guys.
So fun. We shoot a funny sequence. I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about again, but we do shoot a really funny sequence in the last episode, where Garrett is the head honcho of something fun. Something fun is coming down the pipeline. That was a really fun day of work.
I was trying to figure out how to explain that as well.
But without explaining
something that someone's involved in, and we shoot something over it that's not necessarily the show, but it's within the show and it's involved in the show and it's a big part of the show. But just wait.
Now that makes sense.
I could not explain that better myself. That's perfect. Yeah, I agree. 100%. That is exactly what it is. But yeah, all I will say is it's a really interesting juxtaposition between the reality of a crime family, and then also people who are trying to live a normal life as well. And I think that's part of the fun of the show is that nobody's all one thing. You see these characters in all the different colors, and sometimes they're hardened gangsters, and sometimes they're just real people trying to get through the day and make a living. And sometimes the two of those things are, when you push that normalcy up against the craziness of being a gangster, it's even funnier than it would be just in normal life. So if that makes equally no sense. So anyway, we'll leave you with that.
I actually think that's one of the things I enjoy about the show, and I think what fans enjoy, which is that you have these scenes that can be really funny, and where you have these family dynamic, and then all of a sudden you have Sly, putting a gun and blowing someone's head off against a wall. Right. It's all of that mixed together for this show.
Yeah, I mean, just because his character happens to be a gangster doesn't mean he's not subject to the same petty annoyances that the rest of us have to deal with all day. And it's funny when you see a gangster have to, get pushed up against by, the indignity of going to the Department of Motor Vehicles or anything, trying to order a cup of coffee. And it's just, it's just fun to see, oh yeah, even a guy like White Man Freddy has to, deal with this stuff. So that's part of the fun of writing it.
On that note, I will say I sincerely am looking forward to seeing the rest of season 2. And I really want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank everyone for watching, for joining us for this special PaleyFest Fall TV Previews conversation with Paramount Plus's Tulsa King. You can enjoy more of the programs by clicking the subscribe button below. And thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you all for doing this.
Thank you.